travelers, it's Cecily with Traveling North, and today I wanted to give you an update on a recent visit to the Denver Zoo. With everything going on with COVID-19, I wanted to show just a little bit about how the zoo has taken all of its social distancing cautions and how it's kind of following the regulations and guidelines here in Colorado. And plus, it was just a fun day. For those of you that don't know, I do have a full-time job, and then I'm also in grad school, and I also have a graduate school position at a local university, and I own my own travel business, and I'm finishing up an internship for school, and I'm also peer mentoring for the incoming class of students into my program. So I have a lot going on, and to be completely honest, even though I've been able to work from home, and I'm very blessed to be able to work from home, it has been very overwhelming, and I think a lot of just what's going on in the world right now has just done a lot of damage, and a lot of it's just overwhelming, and it's stressful, and I already have high blood pressure, which I'm now on medication for, and that's been a bit of an adjustment as well. And just knowing that I am stressed, as I'm sure a lot of you are as well, and just not being able to do the regular day-to-day things, or going out to see people, or, you know, going to the zoo, or going to see a movie, or traveling, doing summer vacations, things like that. This year looks very, very different. And so I just want to do something different today and just show you how my visit to the zoo was. So we went to the Denver Zoo, which has been around for a very long time, over 100 years now. When my parents and I first moved to Colorado, I'm sure one of the first places we went to was the zoo, as well as the Nature and Science Museum, which is right next door. And so this is the zoo that I know the best. However, I have not been to the Denver Zoo since December of 2018. My boyfriend and I went for the annual Zoo Lights, kind of last minute, right at the end of the year. And so, you know, at Zoo Lights, it's dark, and the zoo looks very different at night. And now with all the social distancing guidelines and this, you know, certain pathways that people have to take, it definitely looks way different, and there's just a lot of things that I hadn't seen since the last time I was there, and just the way they're doing a lot of construction right now as well, so various things were closed or just blocked off, but I still feel like we were able to see a lot. We spent almost 3 hours there, which also included having lunch, and we really took our time. So I'm just going to kind of go through what we were able to do and what it looked like. So my parents are members of the zoo, and so we had booked our tickets online, and right now they're doing like timed entry, with so many tickets being sold per entry time. So we arrived at like 10 a.m. and our entry time was at 10:30. So we kind of hung out in the parking lot for a while. And for those of you that know the Denver Zoo, the parking can be very limited at times, especially when the zoo and the museum is open, and the park, and there's softball games going on and whatever else. So parking can be a bit of an issue. But today I really didn't have a problem finding a space. My parents got there right before I did. So we just kind of hung out in the parking lot in the shade for a while. I think the high today was like 82 or 83. So it was still pretty warm, but not like roasting, and not a lot of humidity either, which was nice. So we waited outside, and they're telling you like not to mingle outside the entry too much, you know, if you're waiting for people or whatever, but when you're waiting for your entry time, just kind of wait other places, because their main entry point can get, especially when you're going for like Zoo Lights or some big event, something like that, that main entry can get super crowded. So they were trying to direct people on the entry side, and then on the exiting side, like you could either exit or go through the gift shop. So we entered at 10:30. They just scanned our tickets, which was super great. They had the social distancing markers set out so you could, you know, stand in your bubble and then move up. So they scanned our tickets, and now they have like hay bales set up to kind of help guide you to the direction that you're supposed to be on, or like which side you're supposed to be on. And then they have arrows pointed everywhere. And I honestly don't remember if they had all of the signs on the ground before. Like there'd be an arrow and then there'd be a spray painted drawing of like a lion or something like that to kind of direct you to which animals you were going to see. And I don't know if that was pre-COVID or if that, I feel like that was a pre-COVID thing, but the arrows for sure are new. And they also have lifeguard stations which is sponsored by the local water park. So it's kind of nice to be, there's a lot of staff members around and that are directing people on where to go, able to answer questions. And they kind of have this very noticeable spot to be in that's, you know, they have an umbrella. I don't know, seems like a pretty cushy job to be able to just stand, you know, sit up there and watch people. And I bet you have a great view of the zoo too. But really we were able to see a ton of animals. There's a bunch of baby animals there right now, which of course are super adorable. We did get to see the baby lion cubs. We got to see the baby zebra. We were able to see the baby orangutan, the baby rhinoceros. So I actually felt like we got to see a lot of animals, even though I would say sort of towards the middle of the day when it was getting hot, I feel like a lot of them were going inside. I will say it did kind of feel like Zoo Lights, because Zoo Lights has a definite path for you to be able to see everything. And they had the option when you first kind of got to the first kind of diversion point where if you went straight, you could do the full loop around the zoo, or if you turned off, you could do like a half a loop around the zoo. So they were giving the people options of doing one or the other. We did the full one all the way around, and also at the same time there's an artist who's doing Lego sculptures, and the Lego sculptures were out and about, so it was kind of fun to like come around these corners, or like just because of how they have things like partitioned off, it was kind of almost like a treasure hunt to like look for the Lego sculptures that are there right now. And some of them are truly amazing. I mean, I've seen a lot of Lego sculptures and some of them are just really, really cool. I think my favorite was either the seahorses or the hummingbird. That's what I was trying to say. Also in the gift shop, they had like the little hummingbird statues, whatever, for sale, which I thought was pretty cute. So it was kind of nice to have something else to look at that wasn't just looking for the animals, especially with it being so hot out. And of course they're going to go inside where it's cooler. I will say that I was glad to see that Bird World is under construction. For those of you that have been to the Denver Zoo and you've experienced Bird World, I will definitely say Bird World is what I remember from the first several times I went to the zoo, and it was just old and smelly and dark, and you know, you did get to see cool birds, but it just isn't like, I don't know, going to so many zoos now, like especially the Omaha Zoo or the San Diego Zoo or others that have really done a lot in updating their exhibits. I'm really, really glad to see how the Denver Zoo is doing the same thing. They've done so many new exhibits and new enclosures, and it's been really, really fun to see. The one thing that I was really, really happy about was they have a new tiger exhibit, and the tiger, Yuki was out. I think that's his name. And they have this big enclosure that's fenced in, but then it has like a walkway that the tigers can like go walk around, and then they'll have like meat up there for them to chase and like give them kind of some exercise and things like that. And it reminded me of the Montana Zoo, which my boyfriend and I went to the end of 2018, and they had a lynx, I think, some animal that is, if it wasn't a lynx, very similar to a lynx, but we were looking in the cage, and like and there was no one there because it was November in Montana, but it was this big cage, and we're looking for this lynx, and we're like, well, he's not in there, let's go. And my boyfriend kept standing there at the fencing, and I had turned around to start to leave, and I turned back and I look up, and the lynx was actually up on this tiny little walkway just sleeping, and it's like, oh, he's literally right above us. So that's kind of the fun thing about this enclosure, is that if you time it right and the tigers are out and they're walking around and doing stuff, you can literally stand right up under them, which is pretty cool. So other than that, I think the social distancing was great. We did end up eating lunch there, which I will say they have a very limited menu right now. They are really encouraging mobile ordering of any food that you want. So we ended up not doing that, which usually at Disney I'm all about mobile ordering. I think it's just way easier. But we ended up just waiting in line, and it did take a while for our food. Um, but other than that, we didn't have a problem. They are like they have signs on every table, and they've kind of, for what they can, they've spaced out seating. But there's signs on every table that will say, um, you know, please sit here. This table has been thoroughly sanitized. And then when you leave, you flip that sign over so that the employees know to come and wipe down the tables again. Um, so it took us a little, like, we had to wait a little bit for an employee to come over and wipe down the tables. But other than that, it really wasn't a problem. There were plenty of tables, plenty of seating. A lot of people were sitting over with like the elephant enclosure. Like there's a amphitheater kind of seating over there. So there were a lot of people sitting and eating over there as well. So the Denver Zoo does have 2 new lion cubs. Their naming contest just ended. And that was the only time where they actually had like an entry point where you had to stand and wait to be let in. So they had an employee there that was counting people and looking and making sure that there was enough space. And then they had they were supposed to have signs on the floor to like help you know where to stand and make sure there was enough room, but I feel like those have really faded quickly because they were really hard to see unless you were like right up on them. But I felt like it wasn't super crowded and people knew to kind of keep moving and give people space. And I think that was also a really great thing. Everyone that was there was very, very conscientious of being aware of people around them and also realizing that we had to give each other space. And so if we were in an enclosure, you know, looking at something and be like, all right, I've seen it, I'm going to move on and make sure that other people can get in and see it as well. So they do have signs reminding everybody to do that. And then as we left, so they still have the same pathways and everything. One of the cool ones was the new like bear area, bear country, which I think has some sort of connection to REI because there's a whole bunch of REI gear out and about. So it's kind of just a nice little theming. And then I will also say with like the elephant area, I feel like there's a little bit of Animal Kingdom inspiration. There's a lot of music and just fun things to look at and flags and just different little theming aspects that have nothing to do with the animals. It's just kind of to make you feel more like you're in the country where that animal is from, which I think is a really neat idea. And as we were leaving, they had the pathway out, and like I said, you can either exit through the main exit or you can go through the gift shop. Of course, I always have to go through the gift shop, so they had tape on the floors and like had it all planned where you had to go in a certain direction. And then also when they did have an employee like welcoming you into the store and also reminding you to be very conscientious of what you're touching, and that if you're going to touch it, you're most likely going to buy it, which I totally understand that. So but other than that, I think the zoo is doing a great job of social distancing, aside from waiting in line for the lions. There's actually 2 penguin exhibits, and one is like you're enclosed and then the other one is outdoors. And so that one and the first one where you go actually inside to this little area, I feel like that was more crowded. And people weren't like, people would literally walk in and stop right as they walked in, and sort of instead of going as far as they could and stopping and looking at the penguins. So I felt like that wasn't as well organized, and there wasn't really any staff around to like guide people on where they should be. So that one was a little bit harder. That was definitely more crowded. And I kind of raced through there a little bit on my own. But then the other one was like wide open. It was fine. But other than that, I really didn't feel like it was super crowded. I never felt like you know, people were too close. Everyone was wearing a mask. It was definitely like, I think for attractions and feeling comfortable, it's definitely one that I felt much more comfortable being at than being somewhere where there's a lot of people in an enclosed space, or like a place where you're encouraged to touch a lot of things. They do have signs in a lot of places saying that this is a high touch item, which usually, you know, on any other At any other time, they would be encouraging you to touch this skull or hit this button or whatever the case may be. And so they do actually tell you, like, this is a high touch area, so just be aware of that. They did have hand sanitizer stations everywhere. I have never, like, they have like standalone stations, and then they also had the stations like attached to walls and stuff, but really everywhere we looked there was another hand sanitizer station in any direction, which I thought that was really nice. I like seeing the employees going over. They also had signs on the bathrooms to let you know if it was closed for cleaning or the last time that it had been cleaned. They had checklists on all of them of like when the last time an employee had been through. And honestly, I have to say, having the last time being there at Zoo Lights, and the bathrooms were in pretty gross condition. It was really like, they actually looked great. And it definitely felt cleaner and more, I don't know, crowd appropriate, I guess. So I definitely felt safe being there. I'm glad that we went. I'm glad that I took the time just for half a day to go do something and get my mind off of everything else that I'm supposed to be doing right now. So with that, please be sure to check out all of my social media. I'm on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and LinkedIn. Of course, you can always find me on my website at travelingnorthagency.com. If you're looking to travel, hopefully in 2021, you can email me at bookit@travelingnorthagency.com. And until next time, safe travels. The Zabi orangutan, the Zabi